whether it was with my parenting, I don't have it all together. Whether it's with, professionally, I don't have it all together. Whether it's with my relationships, I don't have it all together. Whether it's with anything that I'm considered an authority or whether I'm considered an expert. I mean, the idea that for so many people, we think that we have to have everything together. We have to be this perfect thing in order to lead others. Whatever we do, wherever we are, that is always in my mind when I'm with my daughters, when I'm with my clients, whatever it is that kindness is what leads. Is that kindness is always there, because we never know what someone is going through. We never know the pain that someone is in. And I can certainly know that I've been in so much pain at certain points in my life. And the times that I can remember when people were kind to me, it made all the difference.
I'm Scott Vatcher, the host of Questioning Authority, where I question authority figures about health, wealth, and relationships. This episode is brought to you by theauthorityco.com, helping health professionals be seen as the go-to authority in their community. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Questioning Authority podcast. I'm here with a extremely special guest, old friend of mine, super excited to catch up with him, see what he is up to. He's doing some really cool stuff in the healthcare space right now, and I don't actually know exactly what it is. I just have seen him. He's been very active on socials, and so excited to just chat about that as well, because as you know, in the healthcare space, in the professional space, getting ourselves out there is it's not a thing that we kind of maybe need to do anymore. It is an absolute necessity if we want to have successful businesses in today's world. So that's basically what today's podcast is going to be about. Called Questioning Authority because I'm here to question authority figures in the healthcare space around business, life, and relationships. And I think we're probably going to touch on all three today with my beautiful guest, Alain Desaulniers.
Pretty close. Desaulniers.
Pretty close.
You got it.
Nice. Pretty close. All right. So I want to start out with what are you an authority in that people don't know much about you? Basically what I mean by that is, what's a superpower of yours or something that you just love doing that maybe people in the audience might get to know you a little bit better about?
Gotcha. Well, I don't know that I feel it's a superpower. It's not a superpower that I feel it is unique to me, nor do I feel that is something that it's not definitely not unique to me. But I remember I was in 5th or 6th grade back in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and dead of winter. I was one of those kids that had to walk to and from school. It's probably like a 25-minute walk to and from school. And there was a period of time where I would walk there's 3 of my friends and I, we'd walk home together. And about halfway home, we encountered some bullies. And there's a guy, so if you know, we're in Canada, right? So in the middle of winter, there's a few guys with hockey sticks.
I was just going to say, it's got to be hockey sticks, right?
Hockey sticks have to be involved.
100%.
Yes. So
in Australia, it'd be cricket bats.
Way. There you go. And they're walking this way. And when they came to us, I've never seen these kids in my life. They looked like they were probably 1 or 2 years older than me. But I've never seen them. Don't know where they're from. But one of the kids, all of a sudden, as we were walking by, just cross-checks me across the chest into the fence. And they all started laughing. They threw some snow at us, at me and my friends, and then they kind of walked off. And it was the first time that I ever had encountered a bully, actually, and the only time that it ever had been taken advantage of by a bully was then. After that, for a few days after that, the same thing happened over and over again. It wasn't just me; it was my friends. All of us were like, "Hey, we're gonna stand up to them. We're gonna stand up to this time." And then when it happened, we got cross-checked, we hit around, and I had this big bruise on my face. And after about a week and a half of doing that, we got our principal was involved. He got involved. He had heard about it. And so he'd come and talk to us. And he was kind enough. He was one of the kindest men ever. Like I still remember him to this day. Just such a big heart. And he was also a really big guy. Like I was probably, grade 5 or 6, it's 11, 12 years old, whatever it was. And I just remember him being a giant of a man. He may not have been, but that's how I remember him. And he decided that he was going to walk home with us because he could see kind of what was happening. And so he walked about 20 feet behind us. And the same thing happened again that next day. We get cross-checked into the fence. And as it was happening, he runs up and he's like, hey, and just starts yelling at these kids. And I don't remember what he said. I don't remember anything, but I just remember his presence there. And all of a sudden the kids just really, really scared, and they ran off. And to that day, it never happened again. But I'll always remember what he left us with. And that became my superpower that day. Was our principal looked at all of us and he said, always remember that when people hurt you, it's because they're hurting themselves. He said, hurt people hurt people. So he said, so if you want to get around in this world and make a big difference, then you need to be kind. So you should always be kind to everyone that you meet. And so that's a lesson that I've taken since then, is that whatever we do, wherever we are, that is always in my mind when I'm with my daughters, when I'm with my clients, whatever it is that kindness is what leads, is that kindness is always there, because we never know what someone is going through. We never know the pain that someone is in. And I can certainly know that I've been in so much pain at certain points in my life. And the times that I can remember when people were kind to me, it made all the difference. So that's my superpower, is kindness.
And I'd have to agree with that. Knowing you from forever ago, I'm going to say almost 25 years ago when we met. And that's probably one of the things that stands out to me the most about you, is you just this super approachable, super kind, amazing guy. And so let's circle back to that story a little bit. What pops into my head is this idea of role models. The way that you talked about your principal, you could just see it in your face and in your eyes that he had such an impact on your life moving forward. And he may or may not even know that that's the case. But he obviously a role model for you. Do you have any other role models that you have really gained a lot of knowledge from, or do you feel like in some way you're doing the same, passing that baton on for being role models for others?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I have had a million role models since then, and I know that I'm sure they'll have a million from now till the day I die. I feel like anytime that I can learn something, and whether it be from someone that I dislike, someone that I like, someone that I look up to, someone I do or don't respect, I mean, there's always an opportunity to learn. And I feel like right now, my biggest teachers, my biggest mentors are my kids. Right now, the recording, as of this recording, I have two daughters. They are 7.5 and 4 years old, and yeah, they are my teachers for sure.
A friend of mine had said that when my daughter's 13, and this was quite a while ago, and I'd never really thought of it that way. But he had some older kids, and he said, "Your kids will be your greatest teachers," and it's such a kind of not dichotomy, kind of like the opposite of what you expect. You feel like you need to be or have to be this role model for them, but in reality, lots of times, life beats us down, and having these kids around who have this just pure expectation and fun and love of life is really what we all need to relearn. Life, it really does. Life and business and hard relationships can really put us in a funk that some of us don't get out of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about like questioning authority and being an authority. I mean, I feel like as a parent, I can't believe sometimes that, especially when they were a lot really, really young, I'm like, how did they let me be a parent? How did this happen? Who's in charge here? I feel like there's no but when it comes down to it, I mean, whether it was with my parenting, I don't have it all together. Whether it's with, professionally, I don't have it all together. Whether it's with my relationships, I don't have it all together. Whether it's with anything that I'm considered an authority, or whether I'm considered an expert. I mean, the idea that for so many people, we think that we have to have everything together. We have to be this perfect thing in order to lead others. But really, I mean, when it comes to my kids, there's so many things I'm like, okay, I've got this figured out, so I can lead them there. The rest of this stuff, I'm learning. Like, I'm like, my eyes are wide open, my ears are wide open. I'm like, let's learn this stuff, because it's and so it's the same thing with our clients. Like as long as we're a few steps ahead. Like I always come down to this saying that says, "I'm just like you. I've figured a few things out. Let me show you how."
Hmm.
So this idea that as an authority that we're this different kind of species than everybody else is BS. I mean, we're just like everybody else. There's a a part of this life that we have figured some things out that we can help someone get to the next level. And that's really what we're doing. And that's, again, starting with, a humility of knowing who we are, knowing what we know, knowing what we don't know, and figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, I read or listened to, I say read the days of audiobooks. I love it. So listened to
Yeah.
slash read a book recently called 4,000 Weeks. I don't know. Have you heard of it?
No.
Highly recommend.
No.
Basically, you think about 4,000 weeks. What do you think that equates to?
I'm going to guess it's our life, our
That's right.
lifetime.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird way to look at it, though. Like think 80 years or however you might break it down to months but yeah, 4,000 weeks sounds like not a lot, does it? When you see how fast a week goes by. Probably the biggest learning
Yeah.
that I got from that book was we can't do everything. We have such a
Mm.
limited time that again, for all the pluses and minuses of this social media space, um, if you view it from the right perspective, I think it has so much positive effects. But you see everybody's highlight reel, so you think, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that," and we literally just cannot. So I think the book helps you to realize that stop even thinking or trying that you can do that, because there physically is these limitations that there's no way you can. So just don't put that strain on yourself. So you're an
So
authority.
that's
I'm
a
an
great perspective.
authority. I highly recommend that book. It's really really changed the perspective for me. Um, and so as far as being an authority, I think essentially in a healthcare space we're an authority, but a buddy of mine's an authority in fishing and lures, and I don't have a friggin' clue about that stuff. But like
Mm.
in reality, he knows more than me, so he's an authority figure too. We all are an authority figure in something, and it's a fun way to view life from that perspective of being curious.
Yeah,
And on that
absolutely.
note, I am curious. Tell me about Tribe X. Tell me about what's going on for you right now, because it's a buzz in today's world, again, with us as healthcare providers looking to, get out there and show people what we know. Like I, again, read book after book and I'm like, this guy is got millions of followers and he's saying the stuff that I've been saying for 20 years. He's just obviously got himself out there or whatever better than I did. So tell me about
Yeah.
TribeX and how that can help practitioners really, get it out there, because I know that's what it's all about.
Sure. So Tribex was a company I started, I guess a training company that I started a handful of years ago. Actually, probably when my first daughter was born. We didn't do a whole lot when I first had started. Parenting took over and my practice took over and life took over. But the idea for me was when I was 16 years old, I had one of the most pivotal experiences that I've ever had, even to this day. I saw Tony Robbins speak for the first time. And that was the moment, like he kind of became the guy for me that I've followed and I've learned from and I've studied and analyzed. And I'm just obsessed over the process that he teaches and the process that he brings people through. And I remember having an experience when I was 16 at one of his programs and seeing him turn around a suicide. The gentleman in the audience, this is in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Again, this is right before we went out and did a firewalk. And he took this guy, and within an hour, this guy was bawling his face off. He just visibly, like he was shaking when he first started speaking, could hardly get a word out, and has said that, he had attempted suicide a few times and he didn't know what to do and he was just lost. And within about 45 minutes to an hour, this guy's entire world shifted, like completely shifted. And I remember thinking in that moment, like, oh, like that's so cool that someone could just use some words, recognize somebody's worldview, and allow himself, allow himself to see himself as a bigger and better version of himself and live from that place. And it's something that I'd always been taught from a very young age, that this limitless potential that we have within us. And that was the first moment that I thought, okay, like I want to do something like that. And it was a couple of years later that I saw someone else, one of my favorite speakers, again, Mark Victor Hansen, one of the co-authors of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. Anybody who's a little bit younger may not know those, but that was a big deal when we were the best-selling books of all time. Second only to, I think, the Bible.
Yeah, right.
At the time. Wow. I think since then there was another book, The Purpose-Driven Life, that has then surpassed it. But at the time, it was the biggest selling book of all time. And I remember him speaking at the centennial celebration for Chiropractic's birthday, so it was in 1995. And again, I thought, I'm just so blown away by his presence and just the way he could just stand up there and just transform a crowd just through his words, through his demeanor, through his presence. And I thought, that's something I want to do. And I got into chiropractic and I got into practice, and it's over the years something that I felt like was a big missing link for a lot of people. A lot of really smart people in practice, a lot of really heart-centered people, a lot of really passionate people. And we've been taught this idea that, if they just knew what we knew, they would do what we do. And so we go out and share this passion, we share this vision, we share this message, and somehow, as a culture, it's not landing. Then we go through this entire period over the last few years, starting in 2020, with all of the COVID stuff that's happened. Here in Canada, it was a mess. I know over in Australia, it was also a huge mess. And how quickly and how easily it seemed that an entire culture could adopt a certain narrative based on fear, based on something that was really illogical, based on something that wasn't even true. And we know that a lie trapped in a good story will always beat the truth trapped in a bad story every day. And so how then can we start to position our message in such a way that allows people to know themselves, know the truth about themselves, know the truth about the greatness of themselves through the things that we say? So that's where Tribex started, was like, how can we allow people to, number one, know their own story? Like, know that who I am, Scott, who you are, all the listeners, who you are, the person you are has value. The story you have, your lived experience has so much value, and inherent in it is transformation that can help someone else. And so for so long, I thought that I didn't really have a story. I come from a chiropractic family in that we have 44 chiropractors in my family. Like, really, really
Holy
cool.
moly.
Right?
Wow.
And
wow, that's incredible.
It was
Are you the biggest chiropractic family in the world?
There's a couple bigger.
Right.
But we're definitely we're up there. One of the things, though, is that it happened in 2 generations. So my uncle, my mom's older brother, was the first chiropractor in our family. And it was, his passion and his just the presence that he exuded and how he spoke about it just got everybody on board. And but in that, I thought, because it was just the world that I lived in, I thought it was just boring. Like, this is just I'd never had this miracle story that happened to me that so many people that I spoke to or that I met in chiropractic college, like, they had this like miracle thing that happened to them, and that's what brought them into chiropractic. Me, it was just this way of life, this big idea that I just want to get out. But for so long, I thought, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about my story. There's nothing really interesting about me. And I was really depressed for a lot of years. I thought I had this big message outside, like the chiropractic message was so big, yet me, I felt, was so small. And I recognized that in so many people. We think that this thing that we're doing is so big, yet me, I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. I'm not this or that. And so I can't get my story out. And what we know is that when it comes to communication, when it comes to communicating, whether it's one-on-one, whether it be one-to-many, whether it's live, whether it's online, wherever it is that when we communicate our story to each other, that's when transformation happens. It's not because of the information. If the information is the only thing that transform people, then we would all be billionaires with six-pack abs.
That's a good
But
combo.
yeah, right. But
They
we're
kind
not.
of they kind of go opposite, I think, mostly, don't they?
Yeah, a lot
Not,
of times. Yeah.
there's not too many billionaires out there with six-pack abs. Thank you so much for watching the show. I have a quick favor to ask of you. If you enjoy the show and want me to get even better guests on to provide even more value, please, please, please just hit the follow or like button on the app that you're listening to the show on right now. It will help the show grow more than you realize. And I thank you so much in advance, and I appreciate you. Now, back to the show. So,
Yeah.
so let's circle back on that, because I know a lot of our listeners out there are completely agreeing with you and saying the same thing for their life. It's like, I don't have anything special. I'm not that person. I don't know what to say to people. I don't know how to make it out there. So is there like a framework or like a logical process to drag that out of people? Because I bet you most people are thinking exactly the same thing that you said you were thinking. How did you get past that?
I told my story to somebody once, and they were just blown away. They're like, "What? You did what? You what?" Well, first of all, now I recognize when I say the thing I just told you, and you did this very similar thing that said there's 44 chiropractors in my family. I was like, "What? Whoa, my gosh, it's crazy."
I don't
And
think I have
it took
44
me
people in my family.
right, big French Canadian family. I mean, it took me to unpack, like, okay, what is it that people are seeing there? And it was when I started, well, especially when I started studying Tony Robbins, is I noticed that the more and more that I studied him, the more and more that I saw that he told very similar stories. He didn't have like a trillion stories. He had like a handful. He had like a dozen that he told over and over and over again in different ways, depending on what the outcome of the transformation he was looking for, the kind of what the vehicle was that he was kind of pushing people towards was. And I remember thinking, oh, like there's different ways to tell the same story, number one. And then when I looked at my own life too, I mean, I know that when we look at, let's say, when I watch a movie like Star Wars, I've watched that movie a billion times, I feel. A movie like The Matrix, I feel like I've watched that a billion times. And I found it really interesting that Braveheart, very similar. Like when I've watched those movies, I don't know if you've done this too, but like I'll rewatch it and I'll really resonate and I'll really connect with one of the characters. Like last time I watched Braveheart, I was like all about what was the guy who was in charge of Scotland there, like the whatever his name was, the Bruce. The Bruce.
Yeah.
Like I really connected with him. I was at a time in my life where I was really conflicted. There was something that I really wanted, but there's also something else that was holding me back. And I was like, oh, I so feel the pain, what he's feeling. He wants to do the right thing, but he's got this legacy behind him that he has to leave behind. He has his family he has to leave behind if he does this thing. He has his father who he's looked up to his entire life. And now he's like, he wants to go against what his father said. I totally resonated with that. Yet the time before when I watched Braveheart, I was like, I'm Braveheart. I'm the hero in the story, right? And so many times in our life, like depending on where we're at, we relate to different things. And like, okay, so there's different, like we all play different roles at different times. And so the framework, number one, I guess, of looking at our own selves and looking at our own stories is to recognize that, I mean, we all have stories, but many of us don't take the time to look at them. Like we don't take the time to actually document them. One of the guys I loved listening to is Gary Vaynerchuk. He said, document, don't create. And when we look at documenting, there's so much that we go through in our day-to-day life that can be so impactful, not only to us, but to another person. So one of the things that we do right from the beginning, when people first start with us in our programs, is I'll ask somebody to just tell me a story. If I said, like, Scott, tell me a story.
Right. Like, tell you a story. Okay.
Okay. Well, so right off the bat, that's what most people do. They'll be like,
yeah, I
bet. And then there's deer in headlights. They're petrified. There's just shock and just trauma. because they don't feel they have a story. But I know that you do. So let's say when we start to look at how we can look and create a story, or start to document our own stories, think about any time during the day. Think about today. If you were to start to just think about any time that has emotionally moved you, whether it's something that's negative, whether you were upset, whether you're sad, whether you're angry, or whether you were joyful, whether you're grateful, whether you're excited, anything that positively or negatively moved you in some sort, you felt something. All you do is you just write it down. So when I first started it, I just took out the Notes app on my phone. Now I do it through an app called Todoist. I just create like everything as a task. But easiest way to do it is take out your phone, create a new note, and it's your story bank. And anytime that you feel just emotionally moved by something, write down the circumstances. Write down the what, when, where, how. Like this is what I'm doing. This is what just happened. This is how it made me feel. Just start with that. If you were to do that even just once a day, and I know we feel way more things than just once a day, but if we were to just take the time, 30 seconds to write down something that we felt once a day, in the span of a year, you'd have 365 stories to tell. Then we take those stories and we put them through another framework, something we call what, why, lesson, apply. So we take the what. This is something that we dive headfirst, like really deep into in the programs. But just to give you an overview, we look at like what happened. So this is the circumstances of what happened. What? Then why? Why did I feel moved by it? What was it about it that I felt was important? Why was that important to me? Then the lesson. What's the lesson that I took away from in that moment? Or what's a lesson I could take away from them in that moment? And what's a lesson I could teach in that moment? And then from there, how then can we apply it? What's an application? What's the next step to make that lesson real? So I can take something as simple as my daughter and I the other night. This is something that happened 3 nights ago. We were trying to fold paper airplanes. I was trying to teach her how to make a paper airplane. And it took her 5 times, did it, didn't go anywhere. Another time, didn't go anywhere. About 5, 6 times in, she was really, she just defeated, didn't want to do it anymore. And in that moment, I knew it was like, okay, this is a teaching moment here. We're going for persistence. We're going for consistency. So I brought her to kind of coached her through the moment to show her that we're just going to keep going. We can feel however we feel. Yeah, we're just going to keep going until we do it. Persistence alone is omnipotent. We get to 10, 11 times in, and she's got these perfect paper airplanes. And the look of pride on her face when she threw that perfect paper airplane was amazing. It was just amazing. So that in and of itself, just a very kind of plain moment. There was a little bit of a teaching moment for my daughter, but that in and of itself, depending on how I tell that story, could be transformational for somebody. So we just took the what has happened, why it was important, what's the lesson, and how do we apply it? So anything, it could be anything. So we all have stories, really. This is what I'm getting down to. We just need to start to document them.
A lot of people talk about gratitude, at the end of the day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. I feel like this could then be kind of in place of that, because
Absolutely.
I would think most of the stories, maybe not, will be a positive story where it's something you can be grateful for, or at least by doing this story and then looking for the lesson in it, that then it could definitely be something that every single time there's gratitude in that, because it was either a beautiful moment that was just great, or it was a really hard moment, but what was the lesson that was learned can then create that gratitude.
Yeah. It's like one of my favorite UFC fighters, Conor McGregor. He said, either I win or I learn.
Talk about persistence and perseverance. I'm a huge UFC fan, by the way. Those guys are next level stuff, man. They put themselves through hell and back. What a phenomenal sport that is. Kind of got out of sport when I moved to Australia. Like I was all into, of course, being Canadian, ice hockey. That was a given. Growing up, I played it all, your baseball, your hockey, your soccer. I was never exceptional at any of it, but, enjoyed being a kind of a sporty kid. But then you just see these pros now and what they do, and how, again, it's being documented. How many
Mm-hmm.
amazing series are there on the all this Netflix and all this stuff where you can just dive into the life of these people, and as you talked about in the beginning, being an authority figure, these people who we would put up on pedestals and never really know what their life is like, but then watch a series and go, huh, they're just regular people, like,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to go through some stuff too. Their life wasn't all rainbows and butterflies, and the life experience. Yeah, I think it was Joe Rogan the other day talked about like your worst moment in your life is your worst moment in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what that experience is, because for different people, some people have experienced horrendous issues, and others haven't. But the experience of life is quite similar.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, and that's what I think what makes story so profound is that when we can tell a story that moves someone else, because in and of itself, I mean, no one cares about my story. Scott, no one cares about your story. They care about their own story. Yet when they can see themselves in your story,
Mm-hmm.
then they'll care about your story. So all of these
Yes.
amazing documentaries, one of the great things that they do is that they tell the story in a way that is just so profoundly human that anybody and everybody can start to see themselves in the character that they're seeing. That's the beauty of storytelling, is that it sells us into a bigger and better vision of who we are. It sells us an identity that we can be great, that we can do big things because, oh, like just like David Beckham or just like Conor McGregor, or just like whoever it is. I felt those things too. Just like you said, the worst thing that's ever happened to me is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I may not relate to the thing. I may not have
Mm.
had the massive trauma. I may not have had the massive win, but I've felt inadequate. I've felt joy. I've felt those things. And those are the things that connect all of us. I think it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Healthcare providers and other small business owners. Are you ready to discover the two incredibly simple yet powerful strategies that you can use today to skyrocket your client base within the next 6 months, all without spending a dime on advertising or sacrificing any of your personal time outside of work? Forget about new fancy gimmicks. We're talking about mastering the fundamentals. Learn what these two easy to implement strategies are and how you can start using them today to unlock your practice's hidden potential. Take the quiz by clicking the link now. It only takes 3 minutes to complete and you'll get instant results. So your program that you're helping health professionals find their story, find their voice, how is it that people can connect with you about that and learn more about it to help them? Because I can only assume that, although it's a beautiful thing, and I think it's a fantastic way to replace the idea of write down 3 things you're grateful for. How about this idea? Have you thought of maybe having people video themselves and tell their story? So then it's like truly documented in a video form at the end of each day. You're writing it down one way, maybe telling it on video in a different way.
That'd be a great idea. That's fantastic. I think
Because
one of the
again,
things I remember for the longest time, and even now sometimes, I cringe when I hear myself speak. I cringe when I watch myself speak sometimes. Also, I force myself to do it because it's one of the things that makes me get better. I look at myself, I'm like, oh. And I did a video not too long ago where it was in the background of myself. It was like a green screen of me behind me, was just me. It was one of the first videos that I ever done for my office. And I watched it and I thought, oh, I was so embarrassed by what I saw. Yet it took me to do that to get to where I am now.
mm-hmm.
And I hope that I look back 10 years from now at this interview here and I cringe.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I'm just embarrassed. Oh, I can't believe you said that. Oh, but it's in the doing. It's in the looking at ourselves. I mean, that's really where it starts. Can I look at my own self? Can I look at my own darkness? Can I look at my own lessons? Can I look at my own mistakes? Can I look at my own wins and see it for what it is, what it can be, and what it could be? And I think it's a beautiful thing. Just yeah, get on video, show yourself, and
Mm.
just even if it's just to yourself. I
Well,
know
that's what
that
I mean.
you can
Nobody else
go
has to
on
see it.
you can go on Facebook Live, you can go on anything and just do it to yourself. You don't have to broadcast to anybody else but you. I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, how do people connect? You've got some stuff you're getting out there.
Well, I guess one way to
Like,
be on all the social channels, the Facebooks and the Instagrams and all that stuff. The website is tribex.rocks. If you go to
nice.
tribex.rocks/go, that URL or that page, there's a resource on it where I have a free training, as well as some worksheets to become camera confident. So I go through what I went through to learn how to just be, not only be up on stage to speak to one-to-many people, but also to be on camera. That's one thing that is terrifying for so many people, is not just speaking, but speaking that it's going to be out there. It's going to be on the interwebs forever. And the idea that, I've seen so many people that are really confident and they're very well spoken. They tell a great story. And then all of a sudden I put a camera in front of them and they just,
Yes.
it just freeze.
Deer in the
So there's a
headlights.
process that I bring people through the training. And I would say that would be a great place to start, because never mind being able to tell a great story, the intricacies and the frameworks to how to tell a great story that not only informs but transforms, and to get people to take action, no matter what it is, that action that you want them to take. I mean, there's definitely an art to that, but it just really is starting. It's being able to just get it going and start documenting the things that you do. Start to document the things that you see and hear and feel. And just that alone, we're going to start to connect with people. And then the more that you can do it, the more intricacies we can start to add into it, the more little tools and tips and tricks and all that stuff. But really, it's just a matter of starting. It's start today.
And I think that's a great way to leave it in for this interview here. Just get started, because I do know there's so many people out there in the healthcare space that, for whatever reason, whether it's a fear or I am an authority, I don't need to be doing this stuff. In today's world, you do. You need to be getting out there. And it's another way to share your gifts. We as healthcare providers have certain gifts that we can provide for people when we see them. But through the art of storytelling, our reach can be quadruple, tenfold, 100-fold, and affect many more people's lives in that way. So I definitely recommend you reach out to Alain and Tribe X. What is that website again?
tribex.rocks
tribex.rocks/go.
/go.
Check out that free stuff and then connect, because as I said, I've known this guy for a long time. His superpower is definitely that he's such a fantastic guy, and I know it will provide awesome value. A couple of things before we wrap up here. I think you've got a good dad joke for me.
There's actually a story that I remember. Little known thing, that Scott had his
Uh-oh.
penis in the Guinness Book of World Records once. That was until the librarian told him to take it out.
How did you know that? I thought that was...
I've got eyes and
She
ears
told me
everywhere.
she wasn't going to tell anyone. And really, to fully end it off, we're talking a lot about gratitude. So either tell me a little story about something that happened today, or something that you are truly grateful for today.
Today, I'm truly grateful for my daughters. Like I said before, they are not only my biggest teachers, but I just cannot explain. If you're not a parent, you won't understand. But we all have things in our lives, regardless of whether you're a parent or not. There are things in our lives that we would just do anything for. And I'm just so grateful for them and all the things that they teach me and all the things that I get to do. And it helped to shape them and to lead them and to follow them. And that's it. My kiddos.
it's one that some days it's harder to find that gratitude than others when it comes to kids, but it's always there if you look hard enough. So
That's why they
thanks
make them
again,
so
guys.
cute.
Oh, I know. They get less cute. Don't worry. It gets easier. Yeah, so that's it for another episode, guys. Super glad that you have been here. So thankful for Alain. I'm sure we will catch up again. I will probably be checking out his program so that I can get better at storytelling, and that, just to help me to know that I have a story to tell. So thank you again, guys. Questioning Authority. Thanks for listening to this episode of Questioning Authority. I hope you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned for the next one coming out soon. This episode has been brought to you by The Authority Co., helping service providers increase authority and revenue. Check out theauthorityco.com for more info.